Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. Today I'm very excited because the last 2 weeks or so, if you've read my post, I have been missing. I have not really wanted to do any videos, but today we are doing Dressrosa. We are only doing Dressrosa because although the last 2 weeks I have binged through both Dressrosa and Zoe, there's so much to talk about with Zoe that I want to do a dedicated video for it. And one of the main sort of things that I was thinking about when doing this review was sort of this question of, is this arc too long? Because before I started it, I was very intimidated by its length. It is 48 episodes in the One Piece format that I am watching. And in the anime, I believe it's over 100 episodes, and the amount of chapters it covers is 100 exactly. I think it's 700 to 800, I believe. And what did I think of this arc? I will return to this question of the length, but I think one of the favorite things about this arc for me is that there are so many amazing and fantastic set pieces in this. Right off the bat, we start off with this amazing gladiator competition between all these different devil fruit users, and they're all trying to win this fruit, which is actually the flame fruit that Ace had. And Doflamingo, he and his entire pirate fleet, or I guess pirate sort of leadership, they all were able to track down the flame fruit after Ace died during Marineford. And they track it down and they're like, hey, we need to find someone to take this fruit, but instead of just giving it to someone, we're going to have people fight. And whoever's the winner, they get it. And in order to get it in the final competition, it is put into a chest, and that chest is tied to the back of I believe it's like a piranha, or it's a really aggressive fish. So it's sort of like a goblet of fire type of competition is sort of what I was thinking about, because there's a lot of different sort of arenas that this gladiator competition hosts. We have like a really big field originally, but then it gets smaller as the field slowly gets destroyed from all of the different fruits fighting each other. And I really enjoyed two people especially. One of them is Chenjiao. He is a guy who hates Garp and has this like vendetta against him. He just really hates the guy. And when he sees Luffy, he recognizes him and realizes it's him, and he's like, oh no, like, this is the grandson of Garp. I have a vendetta against you now. And he starts going after Luffy, and they fight in the competition. And oh my god, like, that is probably one of my favorite fights in this series. And it's definitely my favorite fight of this arc, aside from the final one, which I will get into more detail with. But I really, really enjoyed the characters in the Gladiator arc. I was having so much fun. We get introduced to this guy named Cavendish, who I did not like at all originally, but he sort of became like a meme to me. Like, he was just such a show-off type of character, and I just really enjoyed his personality once I got used to him. Like, Cavendish was just so funny, like how he was constantly trying to get as much attention as he can, and everyone was so mad, or he was so mad at everybody because Marineford happened, and all his attention was taken away from him in the press, and so he was just like really bitter with everybody, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to join this competition, I'm going to win, and I'm going to be back to being famous. And I just had so much fun with that character, and Chen Jiao as well, where he's just like really aggressive towards Luffy because of his hatred towards Garp. And what's really fascinating about Chen Jiao is how he has a bounty of 500 billion or million. So it's as high as Luffy's, and he gives Luffy a hard time during this fight. He has a really big like spike on his head, and Luffy like bangs it and it becomes crooked, which was really funny. I really enjoyed that moment when Luffy sort of gives him that big punch to the head, and his spike is just like it just made me laugh. But I also really enjoyed this character named Fujitora. He is a new admiral, and why do I love him? Well, I have this box set here. I'm a big film guy. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, my backdrops was usually my film collection. It's over 700 movies in it. But one of my favorite series is actually a 25 movie series. And it is, I think the first movie came out in 1968. And it went all the way to the late 70s. So they made like 2 or 3 of these movies a year. And what movies is it? It is the Zatoichi series. This is what it looks like, the box set. But specifically, I want to see if fellow One Piece fans will recognize anybody. It's basically the Fujitora character right there in the red. My finger's off screen. But yeah, these movies are absolutely fantastic, and Fujitora is Zatoichi. His character is Zatoichi. Because Zatoichi, if you don't know the movies, he is a blind masseuse who is, in these days of Japan, the masseuse was probably the lowest sort of class, aside from sort of prostitutes or anyone else. They live to serve. And so Zatoichi, he secretly got trained as like a really good swordsman. And so he's blind. He's a blind masseuse. He's a blind swordsman. The first movie is Zatoichi and the blind, or the Zatoichi : the blind swordsman. And the entire movie is about him, because he's blind, he wanders into town not knowing the danger that is present. Because most of these movies, he kind of just walks into a rabble or a fight. And it reminds me a lot of One Piece, so this is why I was very excited to see Fujitora. Because in Zatoichi, he is basically the character of Luffy, but if Luffy was blind and a swordsman. And I just really enjoyed sort of the slow introduction of Fujitora, because during that scene, we see Sanji, we see Luffy, we see Zoro, I believe, and a few other characters in this bar, and people are playing dice games, which is something that Zatoichi does, because he is someone who has really acute hearing. He is really, really in tune with his surroundings, so he is able to know, like, based off of people's body language and how they are moving, and sort of also the sound of the dice when they roll. He can tell when it's loaded. And so all these things sort of come into One Piece, and I just really love that, because Fujitora is playing dice, and Luffy is kind of like, who's that? And he sees him, and we sort of get this really interesting dialogue about him, where he's a new admiral. He has a really powerful devil fruit, which ends up being the meteor fruit, which he uses the powers so coolly. He, at one point, takes all of the rubble after the entire, like, island of Dressrosa has been completely destroyed. He just lifts all of the debris and damage, and he just holds it there. And he just, like, it's just so awesome. I just really, really loved the character of Fujitora, and especially when connected to this, because, oh my god. As I said, I think it was in Fishman Island, and I was talking in my video with Philip about this as well. I really love when One Piece sort of goes and has these references to things that I never, like, suspected would be in One Piece. So the example I gave with Fishman Island was the kaiju versus mech fight that we had between Frankie and the giant octopus. And I just love that. And in this arc, we have this. A huge Zatoichi sort of conversation. Because there's a lot of references to many different movies within this arc. And it's just so wonderful. I just really loved it. So, another character that I really enjoyed this arc was the character of Kyros. He is a fabled, when we first get introduced to this character of Kyros, he is this fabled fighter within the gladiator arena. And he apparently has won 400 out of 400 duels. And we get some flashbacks later about how he actually struck the king, King Riku. And he basically was told, like, hey, like, I forgive you, but, you hit me. So you have to go to the gladiator ring and you have to fight in 100 battles, I believe is the number that he gives him. And Kyros proceeds on to do 400. And after he wins his freedom, he gets out. He has a daughter, Rebecca. That's a really fascinating story. But during this time of King Riku, because this is like, I want to say a decade ago, King Riku has a daughter named Charlotte, I believe. And we get a lot of lore about how King Riku basically had peace on the island. Everyone was contributing with the taxes really efficiently to where everyone lived really well. Everyone was happy. People were healthy. And Doflamingo and his crew, he comes in and he's talking to King Riku and he's like, hey, I'm going to buy this island for 10 billion belly or whatever. And King Riku is like, I don't know, like, I'll think about it. And so eventually, Doflamingo blackmails him and is basically like, yeah, no, actually, I'm going to destroy your entire island and kill everybody on this island if you don't give me 10 billion belly. And so King Riku does his best to try and get as much money out of his subjects as he could without using violence. And it's during this time where there's just this big quarrel between King Riku and his gods versus the citizens, because they're very confused. He is not explaining himself, explaining that he's being blackmailed because he can't. If Doflamingo tells him, if you tell anybody about you being blackmailed by me, I'm just going to kill everybody. Like, it's not going to serve you. And so during this conversation, Doflamingo, using his string devil fruit powers, which I just love Doflamingo's powers. It's really, really interesting and cool. But he takes over and not mind controls, but like a puppet master, he starts controlling King Riku, and he goes on a rampage and just strikes down all his gods, most of the citizens. People are running wild. Like, it's a really, really dark scene. It's a really effective scene as well, because it really got me invested in this guy's story. Because after this happens, we have Doflamingo and his crew move in, and eventually we learn about this character named Sugar, who has this devil fruit power of turning humans into toys. And these toys will actually contain the souls of the humans, and so they are able to be sentient and walk around and talk and do all that, but they don't have control of their bodies. They're told what to do, just like when you have the toy and you crank its back and you let it go and it starts walking on its own. It's exactly like that. And I really, really enjoyed just everything with that, because I thought it was such an interesting idea for Oda to put in here, because she's also sort of being a puppet master, so like Doflamingo. Sorry if I'm speaking too fast, but I'm just really excited. But so she's her own puppet master, except instead of the subjects being whoever Doflamingo is trying to manipulate and get his goals through, she's creating this entire toy slave army in order to maintain sort of the illusion of control and happiness that the entire island has. Because when a human is turned into a toy, anybody who knew that human forgets about them. So at some point, I want to say about halfway through the arc, because 48 episodes, I did a bullet by bullet, episode by episode notes, and I summarized everything from that long note sheet. But we eventually find out that Kyros was actually turned into a toy. So Kyros, when we first see him, we don't know that he's Kyros. We have this character of the one-legged soldier who is talking to Luffy. He's protecting Charlotte and Rebecca. Or no, Charlotte is killed during that flashback, which was a very hard scene to watch. This is why I think Kyros was my favorite new character in this arc, because I just really loved just immersing myself in the storylines and the themes and sort of the emotional moments as well. I love feeling, deep emotion, and Oda really gets you there with the character of Kyros, because after his wife is killed, when he's a toy, so she doesn't even remember him, and she's like, oh, just please protect my daughter, like, please find my daughter, she's hungry. And so the one-legged soldier tracks down Rebecca, and Rebecca doesn't remember her father either, and that's her father, in the one-legged soldier. And so Kyros basically just protects his daughter without her knowing for a whole decade, until Luffy and the crew come, and they are able to... Eventually, Usopp makes a plan to scare Sugar, because she is concentrating, and it only takes her like a second of fearfulness, is sort of what they're talking about, for her to let go of the control of all the toys, and all the toys would turn back into humans. And this is probably one of my favorite parts of the arcs, was this entire story of the humans and the toys, and also the Tantadans, because they are sort of these dwarven creatures who... Originally, I thought they were going to be fairies, because Zoro witnesses one of the dwarves take both of his swords, and he's like, oh no, and he's like chasing after him, and they keep, evading his interests. It's a really fun chase scene. But Usopp and Robin, actually, and Law, when they're trying to get Caesar dropped off to Doflamingo, it ends up being a big trap, and Fujitora shows up, and Doflamingo actually steps away and says, I'm not going to fight you, but Fujitora fights with Law, I believe. And so Nika Robin and Usopp, they run away. They find themselves in the Tatadan kingdom, which is the Dwarven kingdom. And oh my god, like, I thought I would not enjoy this sort of people, but I really, really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. And I really enjoyed how they helped with Usopp sort of becoming more confident in his abilities, because by the end of this arc, they are calling him God Usopp, which was so much fun. I really, really enjoyed that. That was such a fun turn, and I want to thank Philip, because he told me during our recording that I mentioned that Usopp was sort of underutilized, in my opinion, in One Piece. Sort of post... I think it's Water 7 when he has that really, like, awesome sort of arc. But since then, I haven't really gravitated as much to him. But Philip told me, like, this arc is going to be, like, my favorite if I'm looking for more from Usopp. And he is absolutely right. I was really happy to see Usopp sort of become this greater-than-life person to these people, because... it was just so fun to see. I just loved it. It was so much fun. But I also really enjoyed this new character of Bartolomeo, who is sort of the fanboy for Luffy, because his introduction is him saying that Luffy is going to become the Pirate King. And we're like, whoa, like, who is this guy just saying, like, oh yeah, this guy, he's going to be Pirate King. And I'm like, I've never seen this guy. Who is this guy? And it ends up that he was there in Loguetown way, way back when Luffy was visiting King Roger's stand where he was executed. Luffy very boldly announced that he was going to be king of the pirates. And it ends up that Bartolomeo was there. And so I really enjoyed sort of that connection to the past, because when I rewatch the show, I'm going to be looking out for Barto. And I can't wait to see sort of where Bartolomeo's storyline goes from here. But oh my god, he was just so much fun. He's been tracking down Luffy this entire time, tracking down all his progress as well. When he heard about Marineford, he was like, oh my god, like, that was so cool, like, but I'm so sorry about, you losing your brother, but, like, oh my gosh, like, you were such, a champion during that, so on, so on. And so he witnesses Luffy fight Chinjiao, and it's during this time that, after he wins, Jesus Burgess, who is one of the Blackbeard pirates, he is part of this competition in the Gladiator Arena, and he is on the phone with Blackbeard, and Luffy shows up, and Luffy and Blackbeard start talking, and Blackbeard tells Luffy that he really wanted Ace in his crew, actually, but since he died in Marineford, Burgess will have to eat the devil fruit in order to get that power, because Blackbeard really wanted that power that fruit gives. And so that was just so much fun. I just really love this arc. I mean, I don't know how Oda does it. Like, it is just absolutely incredible. And I don't want it to end. Like, I was talking to my friend who I've referenced a few times, and he was talking about how he really feels like we're on the second to final arc, or even the final arc. And I'm really curious to know, because from what he's telling me, and he's not giving me any spoilers, of course, but it seems like there's a lot of flashbacks happening that fill in like tons of detail in such a short amount of time. And I don't want this journey to end. So I can't wait to catch up within a month. That way I can go chapter by chapter and sort of have that slower pace where I can actually think about all of the implications that are going on, because I don't really theory craft as much as I do when I'm reading a book or watching a show with somebody, So I am really just loving just everything. I think it comes down to the cast of characters, this arc, because I want to go into the Don Quixote pirates. And we have these characters. I'm not going to talk about all of them. I'm probably going to talk about maybe 2 or 3 of them that I thought were really interesting. But we have Dellinger, we have Senor Pink, we have Lao G, we have Macvice, we have Diamante, we have Treble. I honestly think his voice actor is fucking hilarious. I love the way that his performance is done. It is so annoying. I hated him when he first came on screen. I thought he was so nasty with his slime fruit and his just, the snot, and it was awful. But like, as the arc went on, I don't know, I just found him, like, the performance was just so much fun. Like, just the amount of just annoyance and, I don't know, just God, it was just so frustrating to listen to him, but also it was just really fun to think about the voice actor just really, like, I would love to, like, meet the voice actor and be like, how did you develop this voice? Because, oh my god, like, this is the most annoying character ever. And we also have other characters such as Sugar, who is, I've talked a lot about already. Violet, who has a really cool fruit of being able to read people's minds. And she reads Sanji's mind, and she has like a blackout because she is so shocked by how perverted Sanji is. So that was really funny. It was just, yeah. It was a lot better than him being Nami and touching, yeah, it was a lot better than that. We also have this really fascinating character of Corazon, whose real name is Rocinante, which I kept having to sort of interrupt myself because I kept every time I talk about her, I think of the ship from The Expanse, the Rocinante. So I have a really hard time not thinking about The Expanse when I say his name, but Corazon is what I will call him, and he is the older brother of Doflamingo, and I really loved the flashbacks regarding or related to Corazon, because law is tied up in it. And we have this really amazing scene where Corazon is basically... Wait. I think I'm mixing up backgrounds here because... Okay, so I believe that Doflamingo... I know he killed his brother, but I'm trying to remember the circumstances. This is an issue about binging, is that I don't really settle in with it. But Corazon, I thought, was a really interesting background story character because he sort of represents the other side of the coin from Doflamingo, because we get a lot of lore with Doflamingo and his brother's family because his father was actually a celestial dragon. And he was like, you know what? Like, I'm actually... I want to live like a human. I don't want to live like a celestial dragon anymore. And so he gives up the title of that. And Doflamingo is like... That is sort of his big issue with his father, is that he does not want to lose the privileges that he had being a celestial dragon. And so they move out, and his mother immediately gets sick, and she slowly becomes worse and worse, and people completely abandon them because they find out that they're a celestial dragon family, and they don't help them. So they have a really hard time getting food, shopping, just living, just being happy. And Doflamingo really internalizes this and turns it against his father because he's really angry with his father. So he kills him, he beheads him, and he brings the head to Mary Joa and is like, I want to be a celestial dragon again. And by this point, Corazon is not even in the picture anymore. And so what Doflamingo does is that he sort of becomes... I'm trying to remember the sequence because there's just so much going on, but at some point he is not kidnapped, but he's put up for execution along with his brother, and I believe his father is there too, but he uses hockey because he's being tortured, and he knocks out and basically kills everybody there, and is able to release himself, and all the bad guys who end up becoming part of the Don Quixote pirate crew show up and start grooming him to become this really evil person. And Treble is there. We have, I think Gladius is there as well. Virgo is there. Ends up that he's a double agent. He's not actually part of the Marines, but Don Quixote's family. And it's just really fascinating. I really, really enjoy just all of these characters. As I said earlier, this arc would not have been as just perfect in my head as it would have been if half of these characters were not here. Because every single character, on their own, they were not deeply explored. Some of them were, like Virgo. We got a little bit more with him. We got a lot with... Doflamingo and his brother, but the others we don't really see as much. And I really, really loved sort of the beginning of this arc, because all of the introductions of all of these Don Quixote pirates is just so much fun, because I only really knew Buffalo and Baby Five and Virgo, although Virgo, I didn't really know about his involvement with the Don Quixote family. But I really enjoyed sort of them coming back to Dressrosa, and Baby 5 is dropped off by Buffalo because he's a plane. He just kind of drops her off. And Trebo shows up, and that's our first introduction of him. And I was like, oh my god, I hate this guy. Like, fuck this guy. Oh god, like, get him off my screen. And I really enjoyed kind of the slow build throughout this arc. Because from the 20th episode on, I want to say, I loved this arc. It was 9.5 to 10 out of 10 for me. I don't want to say, I don't know how Oda will surpass this arc, because I know he will. That's how he is. I know he's a master storyteller, so he will always be able to find sort of fun things to do, but that I will always welcome and be a big fan of. But I just really love this arc. I think Marineford is higher on my list in terms of my ranking, because it's half of the episodes and as epic and just full of amazing characters as this one. But I really love this one anyways. So all these characters, like, I'm really happy that Oda is just able to just write characters so well. Like, I'm just over the moon for, like, all of these characters. Like, it's so fun. And we also meet, again, another challenger in the Gladiator ring was the character of Bellamy. He shows up again. And so it was really fun to see Bellamy again. I couldn't remember him that well. I remembered the name, but I couldn't remember, like, his face or, like, where he had been from. And Bellamy was in Jaya. He talks about, where we first met him. He catches us up. So thank you, Oda, for doing that. But he was in Jaya, and he says he's been to Skypia, which is really interesting because he wouldn't say what he did there. And I think Nami or Robin, someone tells him, like, you better have not done anything to them, and he just kind of smiles. So I'm hoping he didn't do anything bad. I hope it's something better. But we also have this character of King Punch. Oh, not King Punch, but it's King... oh my gosh, I had it written down. It's like Bordello, or like Bordello or something. King Bordello, something. But I kept calling him King Punch because he has this really powerful attack of the King Punch, which I really, really thought was cool. And we see this background because we keep hearing about throughout the competition as we're waiting to see this guy fight. He talks about how at one point he punched a fortress and it fell. And we're like, okay, that's probably just a legend. Like, you can't really do that. And then we see the flashback where he does that. And I'm like, oh, like, that is so cool. Like, that is so fun. And he even says, like, oh, I'm going to try and use this King Punch power against a Yonko. And I don't believe that he will actually do so, but I really do hope that he helps out because he's very powerful. And I really, really hope that the King Punch makes another appearance because I really enjoyed his powers. It was really fun. But there's not really too much left to talk about. One of my favorite parts of this arc that I haven't talked about was this character of Lucy. Because this character of Lucy, originally it's Luffy. He changed his name because he's trying to be discreet, but he's not that discreet. Everyone figures out pretty quickly that's Luffy, but eventually he breaks out of the gladiator ring just on his own. So he hands his awesome helmet. It's like a Spartan helmet with like the King Leonidas like wings or whatever. I don't know what they're called. But he hands it off to this unknown person. Don't know who this guy is. He is bleeding a lot, like in between fights, but he never takes his helmet off. So I was going back and forth. I was like, who can this guy be? And I was kind of like, I wonder if it's this guy Sabo or Sabo. I keep saying Sabo. I apologize. Sabo. And I was very, very, very happy when I was right. Because I'm not good at all, actually, when it comes to spotting characters from long ago in the series and being like, yeah, it's that guy. The only person I could do that for is like Enold, but that's because he's like one of my favorite characters, and I really want him to make a reappearance because his powers are so cool. I think he should be more relevant in the main story. I don't know, but Sabo is just incredible this arc. He is very resourceful. He is a very powerful fighter. He is able to win the entire gladiator fight, and he takes the devil fruit and he eats it, and he becomes Fire Fist Sabo. And I really, really love that. I loved it, and I really enjoyed him fighting Fujitora later in the arc. That was a really, really cool fight. I just loved everything with this arc. Again, I just cannot say it enough. Oh my god, Sabo, thank you for coming back. I didn't really care about you in the flashbacks, but my god, Oda, you always do it. You always make me start caring again, and even deeper than I initially had, because, oh my god, that was a lot of fun. But, yeah, I also want to talk a little bit about Kinemon and Momo and Kanjuro, but I don't want to get into that just yet because there's a lot that I want to say about them, but this arc they didn't really do as much compared to the other Zoe, which is what I will record soon. Maybe not tonight, but maybe in the morning when I wake up. I don't know. But yeah, this is really all I have to say about the arc. I did notice that let me see. So, Kaido's crew represents sort of the card systems. So, this is sort of something that my friend told me about. I don't want to pretend like I came up with this, because I didn't even process any of this. But he told me, he pointed out again to me that Kaido's crew is sort of representing the card system of, the diamonds, clubs, everything else. I don't want to hearts and the other one, but Ace of Jacks is Kaido, and Diamante is the diamond. The Joker card is Doflamingo, and that blew my mind when my friend pointed that out for me. And I have a theory, because he then asked me, like, based off of what you know about Kaido and sort of Diamante and all these other cards, how do you think Big Mom is going to be done? Like, how is her hierarchy going to be? And I was like, oh, it's going to be based on, sweets or candy or something. And he confirmed so. I mean, her island is Whole Cake Island. Like, it's not, subtle. But I had the theory that Big Mom is basically the main candy, and we're gonna have characters of caramel, of toffee, of mint, and I made a joke that we may even get like an edible, like a sweet edible, like, I don't know, I'm not gonna say which types, but someone who does like illusions or like hallucinations, and maybe a lollipop, person as well. And he wouldn't tell me yes or no, so, I assume it's yes, because I thought it was a pretty obvious sort of setup that Oda did with that once it was pointed out to me, or sort of an obvious line of track for me, line of thought for how he was going to do this. But another really cool part of this is, without a doubt, the end of this arc. Oh my gosh. So, we watch Luffy, and also everyone who's with him, slowly making their way up the island of Dressrosa, because at the very tippy top is Doflamingo, and Treble, and I think Buffalo is there as well. We have most of the most powerful of Doflamingo's crew at the top, waiting for him. And Law and Luffy show up there, and oh my god, this is one of my favorite fights because there was so much history going on in this arc, and sort of also between these three characters of Luffy and, gosh, Fly just attacked me. I almost called him Fly, but Law. Law and Doflamingo, he has a lot with him, a lot of history. We have Luffy and Doflamingo, a lot of history of just everything with them. But I just really enjoyed this fight because this was the first time that Luffy uses Gear 4, which is something I've been looking forward to because I have no idea like what Gear 5 through 8 look like, because I know Gear 8 is a thing. I know it exists. I don't want to know any details. I don't want to see anything. Nothing with it. And I knew Gear 4 was coming soon, and I was very much itching to sort of see what that would look like. And I am very happy with what ended up being Luffy's Gear 5 powers, because he becomes very bouncy. And he's able to use some really crazy abilities using Haki and Gear 4. And I just really loved this fight. And it was so nice to see Doflamingo get defeated. And unfortunately, we do see that he did not die. He gets captured. He's on the way to Impel Down, I believe, is where Fujitora says he's taking Doflamingo. But I just really, really loved seeing Luffy turn Gear 4 and just seeing the hype, because the animation just like really became something else during the scene. I really like when the anime really takes these really important moments and like does like double the frames, or I don't know what they do, a lot more detail, or spend more time. I don't know what they do. I'm not an artist in that regard, but I really loved this final part, and I was just really happy with it. I've already seen Zoe, so I don't want to give any theories as to what happens in that, but I'm very excited to record that. Zoe had just so much fun. So thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.